This is the Spurs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, coming off one of their better wins of the season earlier this week in Houston, the Spurs were looking to build some kind of momentum going out east, battling the elements, battling a game-time switch against a good Charlotte Hornets team. Unfortunately, just didn't work out tonight, and as a result, probably leads to one of the more painful losses that they've had this season. Welcome into the Spurs Postcast right here on Locked On Spurs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, of course, the #1 sports podcast network. He's NBA champion Devin Brown. I'm Casey Viera. Not San Antonio's night tonight. Going out, taking on a red-hot Hornets team, riding their longest win streak of 5 in a row, the most that they've had in 4 years. And they looked every bit of the part of the team that was visiting on that front, but they battled back. However, tonight, my friend, just not enough when it mattered most.
Yeah, definitely not. We got a lot to break down, Casey, so let's get to it.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Like I said, yeah, Charlotte won 5 in a row, their longest win streak in 4 years. That was the notable story coming in. Also a notable story coming in, Harrison Barnes, everyone knew about his struggles over the past few weeks, moved to the bench in favor of Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie. That was the first time tonight he came off the bench since the 15-16 season when he was still with Golden State, to give you an idea of the mainstay that he's been in some of these starting lineups. First quarter, Spurs up by 4 after 1. They really got doomed in the second quarter where a lot of this, the downfall kind of started early in the get-go. They go down by 14 after 2, but a majority of it comes in the final 3-ish minutes or so. Brandon Miller goes off. They end the quarter. The Hornets do on a 16-2 run, and they go up by 14 into the break. They go up by as many as 20. Charlotte does in the third quarter, but to the Spurs' credit, they respond. They make the plays when they need to, and they get back with puncher's distance within puncher's distance, back within 85-75. Fourth quarter, early portion, it looked a whole lot like it was in Houston, getting stops, getting buckets, just hard-nosed defense, timely shots. Mentioned Harrison Barnes. He actually played pretty well tonight. He came off the bench, hit 3 threes, a pair of them in that rally. Stephon Castle, some big buckets down the stretch. And the closest they get is within 2 with about 5 minutes to go. That margin stands up until the final 90 seconds, still trailing by 2. And Barnes, on a night that he played so well, or given what had happened the past couple of weeks, he commits a foul on a three-point shooter, leads to 3 free throws. Spurs get another chance. They get another stop on a Brandon Miller. He fires a 3, gets fouled by Fox. It gets overturned. And so it leads to a jump ball at center court. Spurs get it. 30 seconds to go, down 3. The shot of choice is Wemby pulling up from about 35 feet, maybe going for the 2-for-1. I'm not particularly sure. He missed it. Free throws happen. Spurs lose the game 111-106. Final numbers, Victor 16-8 on 6 of 15 shooting. Dylan Harper, a good bounce back. He had 20. De'Aaron Fox, 11 points, 7 assists. Frustrating one that saw them, you like the grit to rally and get back to that point. But ultimately a tough one because it felt like there was a winnable chance to get it, and they just couldn't close out when they needed to.
Yeah, so basically in the locker room, it's going to be this, 7 players in double figures. It looks good on paper, things like that. But you needed stops down the stretch against a team that is playing well right now. So we're getting to the part of the season where a lot of these teams are going to start getting together, getting guys back from injuries, things like that. So you're going to face this pretty much on a nightly basis. So my concerns, are, you had guys scoring points, and we know the Spurs have the roster to score the points, but you got to have guys out there that are going to get you stops when you need stops, and you weren't able to do that. If you go late in that fourth quarter, Miles Bridges kind of got away from whoever it was that was guarding him. He got a layup, he got a 3. Now you get into where you really need stops. You foul a 3-point shooter twice, essentially. One gets called back. So there's where my concerns, lie in the fact that Casey, you got to learn from this. Okay, you gotta give Charlotte credit. They had won 6 in a row, 5 in a row, whatever it was, and they had been playing well. And I mean, LaMelo Ball gets criticized a lot for his game, but this was my first time actually watching him from tip to buzzer. And maybe I'm missing something, but guy's a basketball player. He gets everybody involved. He hits shots. I thought he plays the right way. So, yeah, if you're concerned about this one, Casey, it's just the fact that you didn't get stops when you needed them.
Yeah, I'm not. And you know me, when there's things to be concerned about, a lot of the times I'm not afraid to say I'm concerned. This one happens, and this was the type of game where you have a lot going against you, relatively speaking. You're facing kind of a little bit of a trap game given off what happened in Houston. You're going out east. There's a time change, not a dramatic one, but a time change because of all the weather that's incoming. You're facing a tough team, playing well in their building. It's a difficult spot to be in. And when you dig yourself out of a hole, like I don't, on some of these nights where I looked at them and they go down big, you feel like they just kind of look lethargic, and you question like effort, things like that. And I didn't really like get that feeling like we've had that we saw in New Orleans,
Right.
just the last weekend. I didn't really get that feeling because it felt like for the most part they were getting their shots. It just wasn't falling. And that kind of happens. That's just the league for you. But I like to come back, like to get back into it. But yeah, there's some cautionary things. I'm not crazy about the 2-for-1 scenario off the jump ball. Vic just letting it go from 35 feet straight away. Whether they were thinking 2-for-1, he was. I'm not particularly sure. When you're down 3, going for the tie with 30 seconds left, I think that's a little bit ill-advised. But it's kind of been the case in some of these crunch time spots where they just can't figure out what exactly they're. Well, I was going to say the end goal. They know what the end goal is, but just some sort of rhyme or reason. I think that was some of it tonight. But it's just a difficult situation to go in and win a game like that against a Charlotte team that's making the push for the play-in. And that win tonight, that 6th consecutive win now, is their longest win streak since March of 2016. Amazingly enough. Something that was actually pretty amazing in his own right was the fact that the Hornets, they out-rebounded the Spurs by plus 15 tonight, 51-36. And the main culprit is one of the guys who is very close to Wemby.
It's time to reveal who made the biggest under-the-radar impact with today's X Factor.
Moussa Diabate is his name. French teammate of Victor. 2 guys have known each other for a long time. He had 12 points and 10 rebounds. Modest line on paper. But he's someone this year that has really kind of come into his own, has kind of gone hand in hand with this little bit of a resurgence, if you will, if we're going to call it a resurgence. This little run that the Hornets have had recently. And you could tell that he kind of had a read on Victor a little bit. Obviously didn't take over the game, but he knew
Right.
Victor's irritants. Victor did not shoot well. He shot 6 of 15. And I think that's in part to the job that he did tonight, played a big contributing factor in the win.
Yeah, nothing like going against a childhood friend. And, he knows Victor, more than just about anybody. And he was right there step for step with them. The call late where it went the Hornets' way, calling Victor for holding him, was a big play in that game because I believe at the time they were down 1 or down 3, something like that. Just a extra possession that he kept for his team. And so he deserved to be the X factor tonight.
Yeah, they have a lot of good foundational pieces with the Hornets. Brandon Miller was fantastic, 26. That 16-0 run, I think he had 9 or 11 of that. He just went nuclear. We were laughing before the show because the Charlotte Hornets commentary team, their local commentary team, they were on the national broadcast. Eric Collins, Del Curry. So on the national broadcast, you're trying to find that even ground, but
You're supposed to, Casey.
You're supposed to on the national broadcast, but You know, the excitement is in there. They haven't had a whole lot. They haven't had a whole lot to cheer about, and you know, they kind of bled into the broadcast a little bit. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. Dylan Harper at 20 tonight. What'd you think of that? Good little bounce back, especially because a lot of people were getting a little chatty recently, opposite of Con Knipple playing so well for the Hornets, and of course the Spurs passed on that. And what's their pressing need? Shooting. And Con has looked like the best player in the draft, not named Cooper Flagg. What'd you take out of Dylan Harper's response tonight? It felt like there was a little bit of, I hear what you're saying. I've been, you know, might be taking this personally.
Yeah, a little one up. Yeah, I gotta go out here and play well because I keep hearing this guy's name mentioned with me. Yeah, definitely. No, great bounce back game. You know, by him, he's you know, he's stepping up. He's doing what he needs to do. You know, there's so many rumors going around. His name's been, you know, part of a couple of, you know, deals out there. So it's good to see him focused on basketball and playing well right now.
Yeah, he needed second consecutive game that he's had double-digit scoring games. And I got to double check on that, but I think that's only the first time he's done that since back into December into the new year. So that's obviously a big turning point, if you will, potentially for Harper at that point. Spurs 48% from the field, took 34 threes tonight, made 13 of them. I guess you live with it, given what it is. That rebounding thing is what ultimately dooms them in a 14-6 disadvantage. They dropped to 17-10 in clutch time games this season, and now return back home to Orlando. Back home to Orlando? No, they returned back home for Orlando for a get-together with the Magic, a team that's trying to fight their way in the Eastern Conference in their own right. So coming up on the other side of the break, we'll take a look at that a little bit, talk about some of the things Spurs can do for the better, and hopefully righten the ship with the Magic set to make the trip to San Antonio in the coming hours. But before we get to that, before we have those conversations, step aside to have some more conversations about our friends that drive this program. Convenient timing for us to talk about game time with that home game on deck tomorrow, right? Because there's nothing like being in the Frost Bank Center, nothing like being around Wemby, the energy of the moment, the Jackals. But what we do know at this point, it hasn't been simple getting the tickets. It's the hottest ticket in town in San Antonio. But that's why the Game Time app has become really the go-to place to go for scoring tickets fast, no hassle, and it gets you the advantage right back to where you want it. And that's, of course, back to the fans. You can pick any game you want, obviously, lock in within minutes, and you get the price up front. For me, there's a whole lot of perks that you get with Game Time, but that's like the bare minimum one with me. I just want to know. You can check out where you're sitting exactly. It's really cool. Take out the guesswork and buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com, as opposed to .com. Hey, if you maybe do well on FanDuel today, you could use some of those winnings to take care of yourself on the Game Time app. But I know you're saving it up for what's coming up next weekend. Super Bowl Sunday, one final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before football season comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it. Special offer just in time for the big game. If you're a new customer, $5, bet $5. It gets you $200 in bonus bets. You got to win, though. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, as we all know, season's over. And the last call for football on FanDuel for the year, of course, the official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started and for more. Not the Spurs afternoon today as they go down 111-106 to the Charlotte Hornets, drops them to 32-16 on the season, and now have a date back home. They return, hopefully, in reasonable fashion. Part of the reason they moved the game up a few hours to 11 a.m. today was the snow out in Charlotte. So hopefully it's a relatively smooth trip back home. If you watched any of the game tonight, the cutaways that they showed to the outside did not look particularly smooth.
No,
knock on wood. Hope for the best. Safe travels back home. This Orlando game, it was interesting because, as you may recall, they also faced the Magic on a back-to-back earlier in the year, which they got to Orlando coming off of a win at 3 in the morning, undermanned, and they went and they faced, at the time at least, it was one of the more physical teams in the league, and they beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Overrated that night in a similar spot, sort of sorts, at least back in their own beds at the end of the evening. What are we taking out of tonight going into tomorrow to potentially tidy up with this back-to-back on deck?
Just go back to, you got to go to your film in Houston and, not only make shots, because it's a make shot lead. We all know that. That's the easy part. But you got to, make sure that you're executing, all right, and getting good shots late in the game if it comes down to that. But like all coaches, you want to go out and try and blow Orlando out. But if you don't, you're in a tight game. Make sure you value the basketball, get good possessions, get good shots, and defensively down the stretch, we got to be way better. We got to know what we're doing, execute the game plan, and go from there.
What'd you think of Mitch today, as a whole?
Here we go. I've done a lot of media training, Casey.
I'm not asking. I'm asking for the bullet points because I know it's a broader conversation.
Yeah, no, just like he was gonna be late, or he was late on the first challenge, which they were gonna lose anyway, right?
Right.
And then I just don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they were like some players thought they were switching, some others thought that they were staying with their man. It was a little bit of confusion for me, Casey. I'm watching him like a hawk, especially down the stretch, and especially with a guy like Bridges, who is a slasher, and he's added that 3 to his game, so he keeps you off balance. Well,
Right.
I know you want Wemby's length on him, but at the same time, when he blows by him and gets a layup, and Wemby's out there that far, Wemby has no help. Wemby does a great job of helping everybody else, but he has no help. So there's just a couple of things. Yeah, I have my eye on him, Casey. Overall, you want a grade letter? Like C?
Sure. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. Yeah, Wemby. I mean, in fairness to Mitch, Wemby bit hard in crunch time on a Bridges head fake and caught Victor on his, Victor came out on a closeout and a head fake, and with Miles Bridges, he just give him a little bit of room and he could take off from the free throw line and finish the deal at the cup. That one not on Mitch. I've felt this year that he's done and I've said it before, a pretty good job of reading the game and reading the hot hand. I'm not sure why he stayed away from Dylan in crunch time today, because this is the best Dylan Harper has looked in a little while against this team. Maybe it was the Con Knipple thing, maybe it was something like that, but Dylan Harper played really well today. Steph Castle was kind of a mixed bag once again, and I don't know. I might be nitpicking here because it's easy to nitpick losses, but I just kind of thought one of these spots where Dylan Harper you haven't gotten a ton out of him over the past month, give or take. Past 2 games have been good. I thought it would have been nice to see him get more burn in crunch time there, especially from a confidence building standpoint, because I think confidence had been a thing with Dylan. Easy for me to say, but he was so kind of just egregiously bad, I guess, if you want to put it bad for last month or so. And now it seems like he gets into a smooth kind of roll and a chance to really he's made a great impact on the game and a chance to get rewarded for that. Especially in a situation where they felt like at times a little all over the place in crunch time, especially defensively, like you said. I mean, that might be nitpicking. He wrote it out with Harrison Barnes, though.
Yeah, he did.
He wasn't afraid to do that.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and then when you look on the other end, their draft pick is in. He was involved in the last 2 pick and rolls on the last play.
Mm-hmm.
So you go, hey, you got Harper on the bench on one side, and their draft pick out there in crunch time. So I get what you're saying, Casey.
Yeah, It's another one of their draft picks. Did a really good job tonight. It was actually the one picked after Victor. He's our player of the game this evening.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Brandon Miller's really been settling into his own. 26 points tonight. And part of the reason, one of the big reasons Charlotte takes this win. I think a lot of people, and admittedly, I forget too, they think of that draft and they think more so that of the Wemby draft. They think Victor went 1 and Scoot Henderson went 2 and then Miller. But it was the other way around because, as you saw, the Hornets had good faith in Brandon Miller to do what he did. And he's been banged up. The shoulder injury took him out like most of last season. And he's another one of these pieces for the Hornets that's looking pretty good. And he got the best of the Spurs tonight. Didn't shoot great, 7 of 21, but obviously on their side, they take the dub, and it's exactly what they did.
Yep, I'm glad you said that, Casey, because when they said that on the broadcast, I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't know he went 2 either. But he played well tonight. Like I said, don't watch a lot of the Hornets, but from what I saw, and for what I've known the last 7 or 8 years, when you in the lottery for, the last 10 years, some of these guys are going to start panning out. You get so many cracks at it. So congratulations to them. This is a 6-game win streak. They hadn't done that in 10 years. So it's good to see these guys finally start playing well, because it's been a lot of bad basketball for years.
They're turning into a pretty fun watch, league pass watch, if not even for the team itself, for the broadcast.
Yeah.
Mullins and Del Curry. If you're looking for, tonight a tougher spot, because obviously you want more neutral, but if you're looking for way over the top Homer stuff intentionally, that's by design, that they're just having a blast, that's where you're stopping on League Pass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what that court was, but it whatever works.
Charlotte Hornets are not meant to be orange. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not meant to be orange. Anyways, I like to think we're must watch, and the next time you will watch us is after tomorrow's game against Orlando. 3 o'clock tip time tomorrow. And as you know, like we always are, we'll be there right at the end of it, hopefully talking about a Spurs win. Shout out to you guys on a Saturday, a rare matinee edition of the Spurs postcast. It's got us out of here before the 11 o'clock hour. How about that?
Yeah.
We have about crazy. 8 hours left to spare for the rest of our night. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it now. I'll find something to do with it. But yeah, regardless of the time, the day, whenever, you're the ones that drive the program. And obviously, like I've reiterated before, you guys are the reason this is fun. Not the Spurs night tonight, not particularly fun. They lose in Charlotte 111-106, and now venture back home, hopefully safely in the snow for tomorrow against the Magic. So for my good friend, Mr. NBA champion Devin Brown, I'm Casey Viera. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.